Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a very, very special evening, the 2025 Peoria State of the City celebration, because there's a lot that we're gonna celebrate today, okay? So you're gonna get used to doing this a lot for the next hour, but we are so grateful that you took time out of your busy schedules to come and celebrate with the city and see what's happened in the last year and what is to come. My name is Andrea Robinson, and I am grateful and excited to be your MC for this special evening. I'm actually an Arizona native, which over time, there's a lot less of us. I was born here in this state, and I was actually raised right here in the city of Peoria. I went to Oakwood Elementary School. I went to Cactus High School. Oh, wow, I love it. Yes, I was a product of the Peoria Unified School District. And my career has actually led me over the last almost 20 years. Does that make me old? As a television news anchor, and I've had the great privilege of telling wonderful stories in our state. But over the last 2 years, my career has led me kind of a full circle moment back here to Peoria, where I have gotten the honor to tell stories specifically in our city, in the thriving city of Peoria. And the common thing that I hear from countless people that I get to speak to on a day-to-day basis when I hear their stories is that they tell me how much they love this city. And those that have lived here for a really long time or grown up here, they tell of the hometown feel that it still possesses. And those that have recently settled here, moving from other states or different cities, they tell of the beauty, the safety, and the opportunity that they have come to adore by living in this wonderful city. I'm still a Peoria resident. I'm actually living here still over the last 15 years. My husband and I are raising our own family in a city that we cherish and love and adore and are grateful that we still get to call it our hometown. I am so honored to be here to share the experience with you together as we learn more about promises made, promises kept by our mayor and city council. Things that have advanced our city in so many ways, from public safety to economic development, education, and water security. First, as we kick off our evening, I'd like to welcome Ashley Wooldridge, Senior Pastor of CCV, to present this evening's Invocation.
Thanks, Andrea. How are you? Good. Well, thank you so much for being with us. We love having a church in the middle of our city, Peoria, and we love our city. We're so glad you're here. And what I want to do is I want to start by just reading you a quick verse, and then I'm going to pray to get our night started. The Apostle Paul wrote this to a young pastor named Timothy in 1 Timothy. He said this: "The first thing I want you to do is pray. I want you to pray every way you know how for everyone you know." And then he says this: "Pray especially for rulers and their governments to rule well, so we can be quietly about our business of living simply in humble contemplation. This is the way our Savior God wants us to live." And I'm appreciative to be a part of a gathering like this where we can do what he said, which is just open our time in prayer. So if you would pray with me, I'd love to just ask God to bless our city, our people, our citizens, and for everything he wants to do in our city. Let's pray together. Father, thank you that we live in a country where we can pray and we can lift up your name and ask you to bless not only our city, but those that you've chosen to lead our city. Thank you for Jason, the city council, for so many just servants that give their time and energy to this city. And we do pray your blessing over our city so that all of us can experience the freedoms and the goodness you have for us. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you.
I'd now like to invite the following people to the stage. U.S. Air Force Senior Airman Michael Walden, who will perform the national anthem, members of the Trilogy at Vistancia Veterans Club, representing all branches of our armed forces, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And now, if you are able, thank you for rising. The presentation of colors by the Luke Air Force Base Color Guard, and remain standing for the national anthem and Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we've watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, yea, proved through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Well, before we jump into our evening of all that we have planned, I would love for you to welcome me in welcoming me, Mayor Beck and his family. Also here tonight, your Peoria City Council, Vice Mayor Jennifer Crawford, Mayor Pro Tem Michael Finn, Council Member John Edwards, Council Member Danette Dunn, Council Member Rick Stokes, and Council Member Matt Bullock. Thank you for being here. We're also excited to have so many other state and local elected officials joining us this evening. If you are an elected official that's here this evening, would you please stand up to be recognized? We would like to give you a round of applause and thank you for your service to your community. All right, now it's gonna get really fun. You know, like like when you grill someone, you know, someone you like, of course. We're gonna have our own little grill session. and we are going to do it with the mayor. How about that? I'm not doing the grilling. We've got somebody special coming up to do that for us tonight. Our grill master is what we're lovingly calling him. I hope that's okay. Danny Seiden is coming up to the stage here, but I want to tell you a little bit about him. Danny is the president and CEO of the Arizona Chamber of Commerce. He brings more than 16 years of experience in global public affairs and government relations, as well as handling complex legal matters in the private practice, as well as the public sector practice and service. He also served as the deputy chief of staff for former governor Doug Ducey. That was in 2014 to 2018. He's engaged in many one-on-one conversations with our governor, and tonight he is excited to engage in another conversation with Mayor Beck on the latest developments unfolding in Peoria. Danny Seiden, everyone please welcome him, our grill master of the evening.
Thank you so much for that great introduction. I will tell you right off the bat, I don't get called the grill master anywhere, especially not at home. So it's a special night for me to get to be called that. Although I don't really think this will be a grilling. Big fan of this city. I have to tell you how great it is to be in Peoria. It's a city there's so much to brag about. And as the leader of the state's largest business organization statewide, I love talking about our cities and the great economic development partners they can be. And that's what I love about Peoria. You could just hang an open for business sign on your entire city. It's so good to work with all of you. And the value that you add to our state and our state's economy is immeasurable. And you're outperforming. If I were to talk to you about unemployment rates, I could tell you that Peoria has one of the lowest ones in the state. If I were to talk to you about the growth of average median income for a household, Peoria has one of the highest. You are doing so many things so well. But probably my favorite fact about Peoria is when we do our value offerings of a city, Peoria always has this nice blend that people love it for the opportunities for new jobs and high-paying jobs, but they also like it for retirement opportunities as well. So you have such a special city here, and that's why I'm so excited to bring the mayor up today and get to introduce him. And then, I would say, very politely ask him a few questions about his last couple of years and where we're going from here with Peoria. So with that, if you could indulge me, I'd like to just tell you about your mayor for a quick minute. Jason Beck was elected in 2022 to be mayor of Peoria. He came from a very interesting background. Prior to being mayor, he was in the Marine Corps, and leaving the Marine Corps at age 30, he founded his first business in what was the back of a truck. And he grew that, and along with his wife, Jane, they have become CEO and founder of TYR Tactical, such an important company that keeps our police safe, keeps our military allies safe, all around the globe, made right here in Peoria. And probably the most notable thing for the TYR Tactical is they won the most coveted award you can get, and that's Arizona Manufacturer of the Year award given out by the Arizona Chamber. So we're very proud of the mayor, very proud of his company, but he's doing amazing things here at the city too, and we want to get into all of that. I want to hear how he's brought his business mindset to the city, how he has an innovate or die motto that he goes by, and all the good things he's doing for all of you, and just the approach that he brings. He's a true leader. You're lucky to have him. We're lucky to have him in this state. So with that, please join me in welcoming Mayor Jason Beck to the stage.
Thank you.
Okay for you? Yeah.
Grilling.
You're in the hot seat.
I'm in the hot seat.
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you again for doing this and submitting yourself to some very tough questions. You've got such a great city here. I saw probably my favorite delegation from any city that I have to work with down at the legislature sitting in the audience right there. So you're well represented here in Peoria. But let's get into a little bit more about why you decided to run for this. You were a business guy, very successful, still are. What made you want to be in public office, and what made you want to run for mayor? And usually our favorite candidates at the chamber come from the business world, so I'm curious to hear about that journey.
Pretty easy. They're all sitting in the front row. So
those are the 6 children that I should mention in the introduction. If anyone thinks we have a birth rate issue, Mayor Beck is doing his best to combat that for all of you. He and Elon Musk very differently are working towards that goal.
Babe, should we tell them about the next one coming, or no? No. The kids are like, no. Riker's like, he's 7. He's like, not at all. It really is about family. For me, it was looking at where their future was going to be. I live in Peoria. Obviously, I go to church in Peoria. This is my home church here at CCV. You know, my business is in Peoria. We've got, you know, over 400 employees in the city of Peoria. My sons go to school in Peoria. I wanted a future for them where they're not driving 300 hours a year. I didn't want them having to leave the city. I wanted them to have a choice to be able to do that. And when we were going down this path, we really started looking at how we were taking care of public safety, what we were driving economic development-wise. You know, we had a mayor previously that did a fantastic job when it came to certain pieces, when it came to building a community. Like, she really did an amazing job with that. And I've complimented her many times on that. And, you know, we had great parks, great trails. Like, that was her passion and her driver. I believe that, like all of us and a lot of politicians, and we've all talked about this, it's a life cycle, just like it is a business. And I think that's how an elected official should look at things. That was that period of time, and now is our time to actually grow jobs so we can actually keep our families here, so they're not driving 300 hours. And it's a big deal.
Well, no, that's a great approach. What we've often found is when business, you know, minded, you know, candidates get involved, they tend to have this good approach of, I don't care what the way you've done it before, we're gonna find a way to yes. We're gonna find a way, and I was watching your 12-minute video, and I have to tell you, go to any other state of the city, you're lucky to squeeze out 2 minutes, and I felt like that could have gone for another half hour of all your accomplishments. But I was looking at some of the accomplishments, I can remember the conversations where you're like, we'll never do that. That'll never happen. You should just build a park or do something else. But you don't seem to take no for an answer. And I wanted you just know, do you think your business, you know, background has really changed how you've approached this?
Well, just to point out the no for an answer, that is how we ended up with 6 kids. Right, guys? My kids are like, stop it.
We're getting to PG-13 right now. Quick disclaimer.
Right. So I really do believe that the business mindset, for me, I live off the trait of innovate or die. I truly do. And the reason why is, in my business, my job is to save a life. My job, I have no second best. I have no second option. My job is to make sure that officer or that military soldier, wherever he is around the world, or she is around the world, comes home. So that thought process and that methodical thought process, how you're doing that. At the same time, when I came into this, I looked at this as the largest missions program. So we're running the largest nonprofit in the state, right? That's how we look at it. Is our job is to drive enough profit to where we take care of city services. How do we actually use what we want for our families and drive that home, and then take that business methodology forward? So some people call me recruiter in chief. My job, I mean, I've you know, you and Chris Camacho have both said, you know, like I'm very, very aggressive when it comes to creating jobs here in the city of Peoria, because I only have so many breaths on this earth, and my job is to make the biggest impact I can in the shortest amount of time, to try to drive that home for our citizens' future. And it comes from the heart. I don't take a paycheck. It's not like I'm trying to make money off this. I donate armor to our police officers. It's not like I'm making money off the city. I make sure I really, really try to stay completely above board on every aspect, so that way people don't look at me and go, well, he's just doing this as a business guy. Because we hear that a lot across the whole country. What's in it for them? For me, this has been the number one thing in our heart, is how do we actually take care of our future of our city? And then somebody else's cycle down the road will come in and they'll drive it a different way. But right now is really job creation. How do we actually take advantage of the opportunity that we have from TSMC's capability and what Phoenix has brought in and the state has brought in, frankly, including yourself. I know you're in Taiwan a lot. And really look at how we actually create those jobs so our families aren't driving 300 hours a year. We want to rehome these families. I want husbands and fathers to make sure that they're spending time with their kids and making sure that if they're going to spend money, I'd rather them spend money on their family instead of gas driving to a job.
Well, as a father of 3 young children, I really appreciate that mindset. In fact, being here tonight, I've gotten out of coaching my oldest son's flag football practice today, so it's kind of a win-win for me to be here with you and missing this weather. I went back and looked at your campaign. When you started, you really had 3 main topics that you ran on, 3 main issues. And that's why Save City is important. He has to stand in front of all of you and say, this is what I said I was going to do, this is what I said I was going to run on. You tell me, have I done it? And in a couple of years, you're going to stand, before them if you choose to run again, and I'm sure everyone hopes you do, and have to account for that. And this is a nice midway point for that. So tell me about those 3 areas. And if I were to categorize them, as you did, it was public safety, which you're very familiar with in your private life, economic development, which we've already talked a little bit about, but we'll get into the specifics on all of these, and then water security. So 3 interesting things for a mayor to take on.
Yeah, so it was public safety, economic development, and really infrastructure overall. And those were the real 3 categories that we looked at and how we were putting money into those categories. When it comes to public safety, we've added between fire and police, we've added 54 positions over the last 2 years. 54 positions. That's a huge, huge factor. If you ask any patrol officer, ask any officer here, you ask any firefighter here, it is not about them wanting more. It's about them wanting people that actually are going to come in and just do the job. It's not like they're just looking for somebody. They're looking for the right person to do that job. And we've added those positions. And frankly, we needed it. We knew we needed it. And you can literally ask any of them, and they'll tell you the same thing. And we're bringing more on. The other aspect was, how do we actually bring more police officers to our schools? We've added eight what's called SROs or SLOs over this last 2 years. We're going to continue, as long as I'm mayor, we're going to continue to add at least 2 a year to make sure that every single one of our children are protected. I want our teachers to feel safe in their schools. I want our kids to feel safe in their schools. They're our future, and we need to invest in that. So that's it. That was a big factor. Tools and capabilities, and the reason why a lot of people see the new fire trucks and I don't know if you guys, I love the black motorcycles, the new black color schemes. If you notice this, the black and blues, it looks absolutely amazing outside. And so we're adding a lot of vehicles. We obviously added a helicopter. We've added a real-time crime center. Those were grants that I went out and actually got myself.
And I want to dig in a little bit on that. I mean, really, I know there's other mayors in the room. Tell us what those are. We saw a little bit in the videos. We saw a little bit of this crime center, your aviation unit. But what I love, again, as a chamber person, you didn't do that through raising taxes.
No.
Now, you found a very interesting way to pay for that. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I went out, because I'm familiar with writing grants and writing proposals, and it's usually my wife writing it, and she actually checked my work after this, by the way. I went to the expert. So what I did is I knew that these were the assets that we wanted to get. Real-time crime center is 180 cameras, complete system where we're able to start looking at how we can actually get to and capture criminals faster, or look at accidents faster, and be able to feed that information to our firefighters that are actually going to scene, feeding to police officers. I'll give you an example. We had a situation. We just launched it last Monday, which was incredible. I got $2.6 million from this on a state grant in our state legislature. Some of those that are here, please raise your hand. All right, these are the key people. All right, these are the key people. Beverly Pingarelli is right here. Right.
Yes, they're very important. All of you, all 3 of you. Remember that when you vote this week.
No, they really, really are. Is David Livingston here as well? There he is. So our Peoria legislators. I literally had conversations with them, and I explained to them, these are the pieces that we need for our public safety. So we went out and got money for our real-time crime center. We literally had 7 arrests last week from the real-time crime center. It launched on Monday. So thank you. Right? We will be able to work with our schools to be able to do all those things. Kevin Payne's over here as well. I didn't see you raise your hand. I apologize. Sorry, you're hiding over there. That's easy to do in this. So, and then we got the first helicopter in the West Valley. We were able to get $3.5 million for that, and it's already taken action. It's already saved lives. When we first went down this path, my thought process was, if it saves one life, it's worth it, and I really do believe that. How much is a life worth? I've had somebody go, well, it's only worth this much. No, it's not. Not when it's an officer. I don't know if there's video of it at all, but not if there's an officer that gets to come home because of that. It gets to come home to their family, her family. That to me is the most important thing in the world, is doing the same thing with our firefighters. We've got to, being able to feed that information and be able to look at a scene and go through that process is a big deal. That was a tool. that the legislator helped us get, and we wrote a grant to get that. I say we, it was my wife and I that wrote it. So she agrees to that as well, right? And then we were able to get a mobile command center, and then we also got money for a water well as well. And all because of our legislators stepped up to the plate and really made a difference for the citizens of Peoria. And you know, trying to take that step of trying to put towards public safety and water security, which is what you talked about. Yeah. Those are two of the big pillars. So we took the parks money, and we put that back on the developers themselves, right? So we looked at how they could actually build that through impact fees and took that money off the table, and we put literally $500 million, $575 million to be exact, into water security for the city of Peoria. It's the largest investment in Peoria's history. Frankly, it's for our future. And it's the second largest in the state just underneath the city of Phoenix, which we're literally a tenth of the size. So that was a massive deal. But public safety was a big factor. We also spent a lot of money on fire, and we added the firehouse that you saw and some other equipment. And then it was really, how do you drive economic development? Now, I say economic development last because a business, as you know, they want to know that a city is secure. They want to know that you have great water and what water infrastructure you're putting in. Every single company that I speak to, those are the two biggest factors. It's not if they have employees around the area, because frankly, people are so used to driving. We're trying to change that. It is, how are you securing the area? How is the population protected? How are you protecting my asset? And then what is the water and infrastructure like? And those are the two biggest investments we made. So those are things that we talk about all the time. When it comes to investor confidence, this is a big thing that why you travel the world, frankly, I think, is you know, a business coming to Arizona, business coming to the city of Peoria, knowing that we have a business-friendly mindset, knowing that we have a business-friendly mayor. A lot of times I'll actually take them to our business. I'll take them to Tier. So they actually understand that I understand the heart that they have for their business and their employees and why. And it's important for them to know that for me, it's about how do we actually drive the economic impact for the city. And that's our future. And that's why they've been so receptive. So.
Well, those are great three pillars. We kind of jumped all over them really fast, and I'll probably ask a couple specifics, but I just want to, before we transition from public safety, I believe, you know, all that you've invested in has just recently net a fairly high profile, you know, catch. And it might not be something you want to brag about, but it's impossible for those of us who pay attention to not ask, you know.
It is.
You know, can you talk a little bit about what we just saw in the news recently?
So we just nabbed somebody off the FBI's most wanted list with the real-time crimes. Again, it launched on Monday. On Thursday, we captured somebody on the FBI most wanted.
Now, for the record, we don't brag about that too much because we want you to think they're rolling around Peoria, a lot of folks on the FBI's most wanted list. I think, and I know Mayor Harkey's in the room, that guy came over from Chandler, correct?
Yeah,
he
did.
On Peoria,
he did.
Caught him. Yeah.
We were actually trying to return him to Chandler. I'm just, you know. No, the importance of that is you know, you look at, we have criminals everywhere in the globe, right? And you don't know where you're going to, you know, capture somebody. You don't know when you're actually gonna be able to take somebody down. We had another incident where we had coming north off the 101, a gentleman had a car accident or ran his car. I don't know if he was on drugs or whatever the situation was, and then immediately tried to carjack somebody else. Literally, this was Thursday in South Peoria. Within literally seconds, Real-Time Crime Center snapped on, was able to watch this guy, follow the guy. The helicopter was able to actually follow the guy, and that's how they actually took him down. Now, the importance of this, all these tools, they're tools. They're not toys, they're tools. Our job is to put tools in their toolbox to allow them to be able to do their job and do the most important thing, which is come home to their families at night and protect our citizens. Those are the two biggest things that their job. And so that's why it's important to really understand that. And we're gonna continue to do more. You know, so we've got some amazing city employees that are constantly pouring into this, but within 1 week to see all that happen was like, man, we should have been doing this years ago. And that's where it's at in Peoria right now.
Well, it's good to see that as a priority. Let's move into economic development. And you know, since I jokingly insulted Chandler, I'll fix that right now. I think you have Mayor Harkey in the city of Chandler here, who's known for really being solid on economic development, and really forging a relationship between neighbors and the corporate citizens who move in. So tell us a little bit about some of what you've been doing. We saw it on the video, of course, but let's talk about what your partnerships with the Arizona State Land Department are, because I know that was one of those things. Henry Darwin, great. He has so many highly talented staffers at the city. I don't think everyone even realizes, because they're all very humble. But people who have been at the highest level of the federal government. You have a city manager who's operated at so many different levels. Probably the best government operations person in the entire country. And other governors would tell you that. What Henry Darwin, just to speak on for 1 second, has done is being duplicated all across the country with his management system. So congrats on hiring highly talented people. But he brought that state land department idea from you to us. I remember thinking, like, this is ambitious. So tell us about that.
So the state land deal, when I was running for mayor, we didn't have available land across the city. So we didn't have land to be able to recruit and bring companies to the city of Peoria. And to do that, whenever I started looking at the map, really started focusing on how do we actually go to work with state land, how do we actually go in concert with them, and how do we actually get, and this was one of the most ambitious parts was, one is how do we do all of this land at 8,300 acres, give or take, and I think my original map was like 6,000, and they just kept growing and growing and growing. And then the second thing was, how do we get our infrastructure paid back? Which had not been done, contemplated. My very first meeting, is anybody familiar with Goldwater? If you're not, I'm familiar with
all the legislators.
Yeah, all the legislators are. Yeah. My very first meeting was with Goldwater Institute, which they're protecting our citizens' rights, they're protecting our tax dollar, they get into a lot of lawsuits with cities and to protect and make sure that cities are on the right path. So instead of trying to dance around that and go, I've got this great idea, I went to the guys that potentially would sue us, right? And I said, look, here's my plan. This is what I think would work, and this is how we put this together. And they signed off on it. They thought that it was a great strategy. In fact, it's a roadmap now for all cities, all municipalities to actually work with state land to do this. So what we did is we identified this land, we put this together. We had heard multiple times that that municipalities and even developers had a poor relationship with Arizona State Land. We in the city of Peoria have found that to be the opposite. Now, for a couple different reasons. One is we have an incredible staff. Between Henry and Mike Faust and Kevin Burke and the guys that are really dealing with the numbers in that aspect. We have a Chris Hawkes. Where's Chris Hawkes at? I see him back there. Chris Hawkes is like the wizard for this stuff. I mean, we have incredible staff that have really bought into this. Now, I probably didn't give them a chance because I really sold it to everybody. Staff would tell you, first meeting with every single person, we're gonna do a state land deal and this is how we're gonna get this done. And what it does is it opens up all 8,300 acres. What it does for us is a couple of different factors. It returns $500 million of infrastructure back to the citizens, back to our wallets, right? Puts it back in our pockets. $500 million, it's never even been contemplated. So first time it's ever been done in the state. It brings $1.5 billion with a B at a minimum. If Jim Rounds is here, he's the one that did the numbers. $1.5 billion to $3 billion for state education. Any piece of land that's sold in the state goes back to state education, educational trust fund, and that's what we're returning back by doing this job. And that is our future. And then off of that, we split the profits, which has never been done again before between a municipality and the state. And they get more money for education, and then we get that for a future auction where we'll acquire land to be able to drive economic development in the future. And that in a nutshell is it. It's those four buckets. And you start talking to developers. You start talking to Dave Larcher with Vestar. You start talking to these guys, and they're like, we pulled this off. They all want in. Hospitals, we've got 3 different hospitals we're speaking with for a level 1 trauma center that we want to put off the 303 out in the Vistancia area. It's been talked about and contemplated for years. It's time to get it done. Well, the only way that happens is to actually have the state land deal, and that was why our priority was to really put that first. So.
Well, I hope everyone appreciates how important it was that you met with the Goldwater Institute, because when a city or a state or any of our members try and do something involving state land, we can invoke the gift clause issue, and then we get decades worth of litigation that freezes all economic development. And one bad case came out of Peoria a decade ago. So it's great that you took that approach. It's responsible. It protects the legislature who supports you, so protects us. So thank you for doing that. That's really important. But what is, yeah, that is. Our general counsel at the chamber, Mike Bailey's in the room. He's clapping. I think he led that applause on that because it helps us. What is your end vision for what you see Peoria as in terms of economic development? Some folks would have said this was it was a bedroom community. It was never meant to be an economic driver. You see something different. You, the council, the support you have. Tell me a little bit more about that. What do you see when you look at Peoria?
So it starts from the beginning where 85% of our citizens leave the city to work somewhere else, right? That we need to rehome people, right? We need to rehome families, and that really does come from that aspect. The second is for us to have such incredible city services, better law enforcement, better overall public safety, more fire assets. We hadn't built a firehouse in 12 years, as an example. To do all these things, you have to treat it like the largest nonprofit in the world, but you have to drive a profit to be able to put back into those coffers to be able to do these things. So to do great things, you've got to be bold, in my opinion. You've got to take this, and you've got to be aggressive, and you've got to move the needle. But you also have to have a heart and really think, what's the basis of doing this? And so I really, what I see is I see our city's future, especially off the 303, in between on Lake Pleasant and north of there, all the way Highway 74. That is our future employment corridor, right? That is where we want jobs. It's where we want, frankly, it's where we want you to tell every single business that you meet with that they should be looking at Peoria to come. And by doing this state land deal, it opens those pieces up to where we can do that now in 100-acre parcels or whatever it is. I foresee jobs being in that area. My goal was to create 15,000 jobs. My goal over the period of time of being able to recruit companies, to be able to bring those jobs here, to be able to have our citizens actually work closer to home, to be able to have a hospital and do those types of things. That you have to have density to do that, and you also have to have daytime employment. Mayor Harkey has great daytime employment in his city, so the ability for him to have hospitals and great restaurants and those types of things, daytime employment makes a difference because we want great restaurants. If you look at everybody's getting ready to have Postino's after this, so we'll try to wrap this up because I know everybody's really came here for that.
It must be. This is a huge crowd for us. Now I just say it's the
everybody's
Postino's.
like Postino's outside, right? But the reason that Postino's in North Italia is so successful is because of density, the jobs, the daytime employment, all those other pieces. And I want that for our city. I want that for our citizens. I want them to be able to be proud, not only proud of their city about being a bedroom community, I want them to be proud of how we are as a city and looking at everything from public safety to how much money we're putting into water infrastructure to how much money we're looking at from parks and trails and the MORE program that you saw. The trails are absolutely incredible that we have in our city. And then be able to have a home life. People are going to drive to work. They're not all going to work here in the city. But to be able to try to rehome people and actually have them be able to spend time with their families. I know you're a soccer coach as well. I don't know how many sports you coach.
Just two, soccer and flag football.
I've heard about your great coaching skills from soccer already from a few people.
We are champions of that league, so it's important. Forget this stuff. Let's talk about that. No,
I've heard that he walks around with a trophy all the time too. But that aspect of it is important, and it's important for us as lives. And as I said, we only have so much breath on this earth, and I want to do the most for the future of Peoria. And then somebody else's time will come in and make their mark. So.
No, that's great. I have to, feel free to clap anytime you want for your great mayor. I know we're starting to run short on time, but I again, when we talk about economic development, you as a mayor and you have a great council, how do you balance the growth that Peoria is seeing and this economic development that's happening with maintaining the character and the open spaces and what you're doing with historic downtown? Like, give me the wrap up of how you manage that in representing your city.
So it really comes down, and I would say our council will say the same thing. Our staff is Beam a Light focused on keeping what makes Peoria great, the main thing, right? The main thing, if you look at downtown Peoria, and we talked about this whenever I was running as mayor, how do we change the downtown Peoria? Our city previously had bought land down there, but how do we actually invest in it? So we took people to other cities and looked at those cities, and we've made those investments, and these council members have actually made a huge difference because they've bought in on that, and they've also added value of their ideas to do that. It's not just one person. There's 7 votes to do that. When it comes to economic development, the overall balance of this, that's why we initiated the MORE program. How do we actually make sure that we conserve our open spaces? How do we actually look at our tributaries? How do we look at how our mountain vistas are going to be hiked? That's a huge factor, and it's a huge part of the lifestyle in the Northwest Valley. And we want to keep that. We need to keep that. So we have the right people. I would say that our staff, before anybody claps, even though I'm up here on stage, it's not me, it's our staff. I have a vision. We have incredible council members that pour into that vision and add value to me. But our staff is literally, even though there's other mayors here, I apologize, is second to none in my opinion, because they really care about our future, right? And I think that is, I think because we have so many straightforward conversations of what the art of the possible is, from my business perspective, what's the art of possible of how do we actually improve our stadium to where we start driving revenue the way that we have. Our guys are like all in, right? They have bought in, beam a light, focus. How do we actually make this happen? And that is Peoria's future, so.
No, that's great. And you know, I have to ask, you brought up water. We talk about water a lot. The East Coast media would have you believe we have no water in Arizona, and we shouldn't exist for that matter. But obviously, myself, Chris Camacho, Sandra Watson, some of the people you've mentioned, we're always dispelling those myths, saying there's solutions for it. You're actually proving that right now. Tell me about what you've done for water security in Peoria.
So making sure that we're adding money for wells, not just drilling wells, but also how are we actually, looking at how we're reclaiming water, how we're actually reutilizing it. I remember my very first meeting with Chris Calcaterra over here, Parks Director. Very first conversation, absolutely, yeah. You want to talk about the guy that makes it all happen for Park? Chris made a comment to me, and he's like, for every acre that we have on a hillside that looks like it's brown, we need to actually change it into rock. I'm like, why would we do that? He's like, because we waste 1 million gallons a year. 1 million gallons a year. So it sounds crazy, but little things like that, we save 40 million gallons by doing the things that we did this last year, while we're taking grass off of hillsides that nobody was using anyway. Those little metrics, DC has their Doge. I'd say that with Henry and Mike Faust and our guys, that's exactly how we have it in the city, but it's not just giant pieces. They're taking little pieces. They're having real conversations. And water was the number one topic. Day one, whenever I came in, it was, I talked to a gentleman that still is a consultant for us, Kate Powers, and he made the comment, I'm like, so what do you need? I asked every single person, what is the need that you've asked for, or you want, or you're looking for? And he goes, I need $200 million. And I go, wow, really? And he goes, I need $200 million because we haven't maintained and rebuilt the things that we need to, and we need to make the investment. So we literally got down to brass tacks. We looked at the budget. We broke the entire budget down, and literally within the first year, we committed to $550 million. This council, $550 million in water infrastructure future. And we have plenty of water, and we've got an entire metric. I remember everybody talks about an acre feet. How many times? Nobody knows what an acre foot is, right? But you know that there's 300,000 gallons, right? So we started simplifying it, trying to get that communication out. And those are the things that matter, and our staff has jumped in wholeheartedly. And we are gonna be able to recruit companies, be able to build all the houses we have. We have more water than we can use.
Well, it's fantastic what you're doing with water. I love that you brought up Henry and Mike Faust as well. I have to tell you, they were shrinking government before it was cool. So yeah, again, Peoria is innovating for sure. But I can see our clock, Mayor Beck, and I feel for the pastor, Ashley, who came up here, because usually I'm in the pews back there looking at that clock. Man, you got to wrap this up. The minus symbol means you're going too long. We like to keep our services running quickly. So now I see what that feels like, because I want to keep going. There's a lot of mayors I want to grill. You're not really the one who I like to grill in particular right now, but I'm much more about celebrating you. And that's what this is about. You've really got time to wrap us up. This is your time to really take a lap for what you, your staff, the council, all have been able to do for the city of Peoria, and tell us what's next. Give us a preview of, well, that video is going to be 25 minutes long. Next time I get to come and sit in the audience.
I would say that one of the things that we talk about with staff, and one of the things we talk about in council or with council members, is really our future of how we're trying to take care of people. How do we take care of our neighbors? Nobody's a number. How do we look at every aspect of what we're trying to do and the motivations of why we're trying to do it, of how we're trying to take care of our neighbors and do the right thing for the city's future. And I really do believe that that is where our heart is. I realize that not every single person's always going to agree with every single thing that we do, and that's okay. It really is. It's how it's supposed to work. But we need to listen to each other. We need to care about each other. And I think that our direction as a city, we have the most opportunity in any city, maybe outside Buckeye. I know Buckeye's here as well, right? There you go. Yeah. And really, we have this opportunity in the West Valley to where we have great cities and great mayors. But for us, we have this opportunity with state land that we just opened up that brings jobs and brings people back home. I mean, that really is my heart. I think you hear that a lot probably tonight. I want people to work closer to home and spend more time with their families. I want them to have that blessing to where they can actually spend and go to a soccer game or coach and do those types of things and not be on the road to do that. And I think that by the way that we're recruiting companies, by the way that we're investing in water infrastructure, by the way that our staff, I mean, you guys are absolutely amazing. The staff is lights out. Our staff really puts it together, really cares about not only the metrics, but cares about people. And that's what's important for this city and what the city's future is. Companies will recruit. We'll bring jobs. We'll do all this other stuff. None of that happens without our amazing staff and literally every single position in here. And I can't thank you all enough. But Missouri just came out of that.
No, it's.
I would like to say one more last thing.
No,
so
please.
I can't do anything without my wife. I can tell you that. Every single thing. We have this amazing work-life relationship. I'm not trying to make you tear up. I'm just saying this, right? But we have this amazing work-life relationship where I have people that will come in our company all the time and go, "How do we work together so well?" And we really do. Like it's crazy. I mean, if we fight, which is very, very rare, it's always my fault. I'm not kidding. It really is. Right? And it's usually because I'm not listening to her for whatever reason. But the things that we do in the city and the things that we are trying to move forward for our families and the things that we're trying to do for job creation and all these other things, we have council meetings. Sometimes they're fantastic. Sometimes they're not so great. I'm not a perfect person by any means, and neither is anybody that's an elected official or council when we do this. And I think people have a fallacy believing that we're some perfect person. We're not. We're going to make mistakes. Our job is to do the best job that we're placed on this earth to do at the moment in time that we're in. And me personally, I wouldn't be able to do that with you or without you. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I'm just going to wrap, but I want to say one thing on behalf of the 1 million+ employees we represent at the chamber, on behalf of really, all the families that go to work every day. Thank you for being the leader that you are. Thank you for setting the example that you set, for innovating, for giving us tools. You're the reason why people like us do what we do. And you're the reason why companies pick Arizona as leaders like Mayor Beck. So thank you again for having me. Thanks for this opportunity. Get some Postinos.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.